Hello, I'm Javier Harkin, and this is Harking Back, a podcast about the pop culture of a lifetime. Whose life? Mine. I'm going back through every year I've been alive and finding out what was going on in that year. This week we're looking at 2011. I was 29, and Annie and I had just moved to the UK. We just had our first Christmas on this side of the world. It snowed heavily, if you remember that year. So heavily. We found a little place in Kennington with a friend. And here we go. We'd moved, and now it's time, all the pleasantries over, Christmas is over, let's get stuck in, and essentially it was start again. Start over again. Start at the bottom. Trying to get spots at open mics, trying to get into comedy. I went to anywhere that would take me. How do you get spots? You Google, you email, you call, you leave messages, you email again, you follow up, you call again, you turn up. There's a lot to be said for turning up, because they advertise a lot of these comedy shows in on the internet in places like Time Out, and just turn up sometimes, like just show your face. I got told to go specifically. There was a place called Comedy Caf that doesn't run anymore. It used to be in Shoreditch. I used to love this club. Anyway, so they said they do their open mics on a Wednesday night. The guy called Noel, who runs it, he's a bit of a character, but he really likes if you go and introduce yourself and tell him that you really like to play his club. So I turn up on a Wednesday, and it's got a lot of comedians. It's an open mic night. A lot of comedians, and I see Noel, I find out who he is, and I see another comedian asking him. I sidle close by so I can be next in line, and I hear this guy go, "Noel, do you have any room tonight?" And Noel goes, No, we're full. And then I introduce myself, and I say, "Hi, I'm here from New Zealand. I would love to play your club sometime." And he looks at me and he goes, "You're from New Zealand?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Those guys are normally pretty good. All right, you're on first." And I went, "Didn't you just tell that other guy that you're full?" And he looks at me and he goes, "He's going nowhere." So that, you had to start again. I mean, when I say start again, I should remind myself that I hadn't gone super far as it was. Like, I'd done maybe 40 stand-up gigs in New Zealand, and some more in Australia. Like, when I got to London, I'd done about 80 or 70 to 80 gigs tops. And I thought I was good. I thought like, hey, I've done like 70 gigs. I'm a good stand-up comedian. I wasn't. I just had a bit more experience than the people who were real rookies. And also, I'd done stuff in New Zealand to a New Zealand audience. New Zealand audiences weren't as savvy as UK audiences are, because there's so much comedy in the UK and it's been around for so much longer. Audiences here have different expectations, I think. New Zealand's really been playing catch up in the last 10, 15 years. But at that time, I thought I was a lot better than I was, is the point of it. Like, I would throw out some of my bankers, and they'd just get like, from the audience, and that was it. So I had to learn how to adapt and write very quickly. So it did feel a little bit tough starting again, because also, you got to get through this before you start getting paid spots. And it was around, that's right, I'd been really, I was really bummed because I got an email from a TV show in New Zealand that is like the big comedy gala that they do. And they'd said, "Do you want to do it?" And I had to say, "I'm sorry, I'm in London. This is all I've ever wanted to do." Sorry, the show when I was in New Zealand, I wanted to do this TV show, but now I'm in London, really just scraping together as many open mic gigs as I can, and I don't have the money to come home. But thank you for that. That was a real kick in the teeth. Just like everything I'd wanted in New Zealand, been trying to strive towards, and then we moved. But I don't regret the decision. I don't. Because the flip side of having to scrounge around and start at the beginning in the UK is there are so many places, so many open mics. In New Zealand, when we started, we kind of had to put on our own open mics. We had to put on our own comedy shows. There was no scene in Christchurch, New Zealand. So you come to London and there's open mics everywhere, comedy everywhere comparatively. Like, you could be doing comedy every night of the week if you hustled, and that's what I tried to do. And don't get me wrong, some places were awful, some places were dog shit. I mean, I was desperate for spots, and I got I put 4 spots in the diary for this place called the Comedy Bin, And I mean, clues in the name. And I went to the first one, and then I cancelled the other three because I was like, yeah, this is a waste of everyone's time. It was such a shit show. Anyway, so that's what was happening with me personally. Let's have a look at some of the other things that are happening in pop culture in 2011. 2011 is the year that Charlie Sheen gets fired from Two and a Half Men and goes off the rails. Do you remember this interview he does where he's he gets fired and he makes it very public, and he has an interview, and this is where he starts going like, he's clearly high as he's doing the interview, like the guy's been pounding alcohol and drugs. You can see why he got fired. And he's smoking, he's chain smoking through this interview as well, which is, chain smoking is never a good look for anything. No one ever looks at someone chain smoking and going like, yeah, they've got their shit together, you know? He looks like a wax puppet that's on a stag do, you know? Like his eyes are huge. And this is where he's going like, no, I'm winning. I got tiger blood. I'm made different. It was really sad. Like, I wonder if anyone on drugs looked at him and just went, wait, is that me? Is that what I look like when I think I'm like at my best, when I'm in my zone? It was really bad. Also, in 2011 is the fabled worst Oscars ever, with hosts Anne Hathaway and James Franco. Here's the thing, co-hosting is always a bit weird because it only works if you have super chemistry between the presenters or the co-hosts. Otherwise, the microseconds in between the handoffs are so clunky and awkward, and you can really feel it. I mean, single hosts have always been the best. Prove me wrong, please. Give me some examples of great co-hosts in the comments. Billy Crystal, I think, was the best host. He was classy, he was upbeat, he was likable, and the jokes came super easy with Billy Crystal. And honestly, I think the Oscars are a bit done. Like, the golden age is over. The sheen has come off. Like, there used to be this awesome night of recognition and movies, and now everyone kind of knows the politics and the lobbying that goes behind the scenes to like get their movies over the line. It's also the best picture category is up to 10. It's up to 10. I used to try to watch all the nominees of Best Picture, and when it was 5, that was so daunting, but 10 is ridiculous. Like, if I said to you I'd like to watch the 10 best films of the year with you, you'd start Googling how to fake your own death. Will and Kate get married in 2011. I remember this day. I was coming from somewhere. I was meeting Annie, and her mum had come over, and we were with some other friends, and they'd gone into Hyde Park, and they said, I'll meet you there. I think I had a daytime gig or something. Anyway, and I get to the gates for Hyde Park, and it is closed off. Like, there's police there just going, like, no one else in, and people are like trying to argue and, you know, push their way through. Like, it's just not happening. I don't know what she said to a cop, but a police officer kind of like, she's talking to a cop, and then a police officer points at me, and she's like, yeah, him. And he gets me through. And I was thinking, like, there's no way I'm going to get in there, because another guy had come up there, and it said something like, oh, my girlfriend's in there, or he had a reason to get in there, and the cop wouldn't let him in. And this guy got so upset, he literally started ripping his own hair out, like ripping out clumps of his hair. I've never seen anyone do this, apart from in cartoons, until this moment when I saw it in real life, and I was like, wow, that's really unpleasant to watch. It's like, have you ever seen anyone do this? Like, reach into their hair out of frustration and just make a fist and rip out a clump of their own hair repeatedly. It is psychotic. It really is. In 2011, Snapchat is founded. I don't use Snapchat, but I've heard about Snapchat from some of my nieces and nephews. And it's because it's what the young kids use. And it is the bitchiest social media app I've ever heard of. Like, it does all the regular things that social media stuff does between friends. But it'll do things like, it'll give you it'll tell you not just who likes your photo, but it'll do things like tell you if a friend of yours saw a photo that you posted and scrolled past it and didn't like it. Are you shitting me? What kind of needy, bitchy... Oh, it's like the plastics from Mean Girls made their own app. Ooh, it's horrible. I can't even imagine to think what it would be like to be in high school with these people going like, I saw that you didn't like my photo, so you're not going to sit with us today, so you can fuck off. It's horrendous. This thing should be nuked. Fuck TikTok. Like, this should be banned. Ugh. Let me know if there's any sort of reason why Snapchat is good. Anyway, the girl with the book that comes out this year is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. It's the book that everyone's reading it, making it the most popular Swedish reading material since IKEA manuals. Annie's cousin lived in Sweden and gave us a Swedish book, not Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, for our daughter. It's called Pippi Longstockings. If you've read it, you know that Pippi is a bit of she's a tomboy who lives on her own. She doesn't have any parents. She lives in a shack. She does whatever she likes. Pippi throws things around. Every meal is like a disaster, like a bomb's gone off in the kitchen. She lets a horse in and fights home invaders. Like, Pippi lives like a meth addict. I never read Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but everyone was reading it. My wife loved it. Game of Thrones debuts in 2011. Again, like with other programs, I really wanted to get into this, but then I saw how much people hated the ending. And I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can enjoy the series just knowing, like, at the end, this is all going to just turn to shit. But in the same vein, like, I mean, we had some family stay with us, and my nephew, I was like, oh, you need to watch The Matrix, because he hasn't watched The Matrix. And I feel like telling him, you must watch The Matrix, but don't watch any more after the first movie. Like, he can still enjoy that, right? But is that the same sort of thing with Game of Thrones? Should I just watch the first 4 seasons when it's really good? Is that it? Anyway, let me know. Is it worth it? Can I enjoy it? Still knowing that it's all going to end in tears. Suits, the TV show, also debuts. This is the one with Meghan Markle in it. Annie has demolished this show. Like, this show is right up her alley. Like, fast-talking lawyers and, high-powered cases and everything. I think she's seen the entire series like 3 times. They say goddamn a lot. The goddamn case, the goddamn witness. They say goddamn a lot. I'd like to get a goddamn count on that. Black Mirror debuts in 2011, and I've lost track of the later seasons, but the first season is fantastic television. They're all standalone episodes that take one aspect of our society and just turn it inside out through these fictional stories, if you haven't seen it. They are so good. Each one will leave you a little bit speechless after the credits roll, but like, shit, don't we miss television that made us kind of sit there and have a conversation about, are we going badly? Like, these all serve as a bit of a warning. And there was that classic thing where art imitates life, where in, I think it was the very first episode of Black Mirror that they brought out, a fictional princess is captured from the UK, like, so modern day UK in this fictional story. The princess is captured, so like, imagine like if Kate Middleton was captured, and the ransom demand is that the Prime Minister has sex with a pig on live television. And it's the quandary of like, should he do this to save the princess's life, or do we not negotiate with pig fucking terrorists? And then later on, when David Cameron was Prime Minister, there was a bit in a memoir that like there was a hazing ritual where he had to stick his dick into a dead pig's mouth. Oh, life imitates art, or art imitates life. You choose me, I choose you. Who knows what's going on? Let's look at the songs that's going. I don't know what that last sentence meant at all. I'm sorry. I've been a little sick last week, and I think the drugs are seeping through. Apologies. Let's look at the songs and music that's going on in 2011. Adele lands on the scene and blows everyone away in 2011. Annie loves Adele. I'm talking a lot about Annie this podcast, but it's just happened. I didn't plan it. We went to go see Adele in Germany last year because Annie always wanted to see her. And good thing she did, because then straight after this, Adele announced that she'd be taking a break from live shows. Anyway, so we would go to see Adele in Germany. I have never seen Annie so excited, ever. Like, I'm her husband. I can honor her, love her, respect her, support her. But now I know that I will never make her that excited. Like, I saw a new expression on her face that I'd not seen before after 12 years of marriage. I was like, whoa, what's that? Is that a new face? And like, sounds of excitement that I know I will never get out of her. So, well done, Adele. You've made my wife truly happy. At least one of us did. One of the big songs in 2011 is Grenade by Bruno Mars. You know when he goes, I'd catch a grenade for you. It's an oddly specific love reference there. To catch a grenade. Like, if you keep it broad, all good, like, I'll do anything. I'd go to the ends of the earth. I'd go the distance. But when you say I'd catch a grenade for you, like, it kind of, it begs questions, doesn't it? You feel like going, hey, Bruno, lovely song, stop singing. What's with the grenades? What's in your past, buddy? I always find that when men say, when they're talking about relationships and they talk about their partners, they always say, I'd do anything for them. But I've found that woman, if you're that way inclined, woman, when you say, I'll do anything, they don't really give a shit. But if you do housework, that's where they really appreciate your commitment. Say I do anything, they don't care. But you say, I'll do the dishes. See the difference. Another big song this year is Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People. They're all the other kids with the pumped up kicks. Better run, outrun my gun. This is totally a song about a school shooting, isn't it? Like, how does it start? Like, Sonny's got a quick hand. And like the chorus goes, all the other kids with the pumped up kicks. So all the other kids with the cool shoes, better run, outrun my gun. And then it repeats again, all the other kids with the pumped up kicks, better run, outrun my bullets. Whew. So if you are thinking about shooting up a school and you're looking for a track to hype yourself, no, don't shoot up a school. But if you do, maybe play the song. Let's look at the top 5 songs. It's terrible. Let's look at the top 5 songs of 2011. And number 5 is Give Me Everything by Pitbull, featuring Feet. A lot of people in Neo, Afrojack, and Naya. God, I sound so old when I I can almost feel myself adjusting my glasses that I will have to get soon eventually. It was Pitbull, Feet, Neo, Afrojack, and Naya. I'm just old, all right? I don't know how to say street names anymore or rap names. I don't get it. Don't know. Anyway, give me everything. That one's like, give me everything tonight. That one, which they do at the end of Pitch Perfect. I love that version. Anyway, and number 4 is E.T. by Katy Perry. I really like this song. It's got this slow, slightly haunting, eerie beat. It's just something a little bit different, And at number 3 is Firework, which is also by Katy Perry, which is totally different and showing her range. Good on you, Katy Perry. I talked at length last week why I quite enjoy Katy Perry, why I think she's a good lass. At number 2, Party Rock Anthem by LMFAO. And at number 1 is Rolling in the Deep by Adele. Go on, Adele. Get in there. I mean, apart from Rolling in the Deep, all of the top 5 have a very heavy synth sound influence. It feels like a prediction from a 1950s documentary coming true. Like, in the future, music will be made predominantly through digital instruments and not the humble pianoforte we know today. Oh, tell me more. Song of the year for me, I think, has to be Someone Like You by Adele. Like, Rolling in the Deep was her first single, and it goes crazy, popular, as you saw. It's number 1, and it's a lot more of a rocky song. But Someone Like You by Adele, I mean, there was a time it was being played everywhere, and for good reason. It's so vulnerable and sincere, and it reeks of like this past pain, yet the maturity to move past it. And I think there's a real gap for this kind of songs because there's been lots of breakup songs before, but this is about one that like is about processing and moving on. Not just we broke up, but like I think I'm over you. The only other song I think that like that they're over you is like My Friend's Over You, that skater punk song. My Friend's Over You. No, that's it. I still pick My Friend's Over You. Totally different. Did I just compare Adele's masterpiece to some skater punk? Yeah, I did, and I can feel my wife's ears burning at that comparison. She hates skater punk. She hates it. I've got quite an eclectic mix. I tend to like at least a couple of songs from almost any genre, but including skater punk. Yeah, I do enjoy those mischievous beats. Did I just call them mischievous beats? Yeah, and Annie hates them. Like, I'm going to get myself a chain wallet and see how she feels about that. Let's look at games in 2011. In 2011, gaming, you've got a lot of franchises that are now firmly rooted, bringing out their own expected sequels. Things like Uncharted 3, Gears of War 3, Modern Warfare 3, Dead Space 2, Battlefield 3, which was super fun. Played that one a lot. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is a Japanese acid trip disguised as a fighting game. But we're also getting some games that are going for something a little bit different. Like there's a game called Terraria, which is like, what if they made Minecraft 2D rather than 3D and made it look like it was a forgotten SNES game? It's got a lot of freedom, a lot of crafting in it, but in this beautifully nostalgic 2D package. It was super popular. L.A. Noire comes out, which is a game about being a detective. It's not so much action, but like the detective, like a huge emphasis on interrogations with, these computer bots and picking up inaccuracies and micro-expressions on animated models. That's what these guys went for. And was it fun? I don't... My flatmate, Nick, he played it and he fucking hated it, I think. He would just sit there because you're just navigating through an interrogation and you'd have to kind of go like, did they just twitch their eye? Or did they look to the side when they said that? But I tell you what, it's a skill that is no doubt going to be useful in this lifetime. You know, can you tell when the computer is lying to you? You know, when the AI revolution comes and they start trying to tempt people into like a box, we can be like, hold on, I played L.A. Noire. I know when the computer's lying to me. Game of the year, I think, for me, has to be Batman Arkham City. I mean, the predecessor to this, Batman Arkham Asylum, was my game of the year for 2009. And this is the sequel, but they just took everything that made that game great and ramped it up. Like, rather than being set in one asylum, you're now able to be to Batman across a whole city. And when a game strikes gold, like Arkham did, the original did, when a game strikes gold and they want to bring out a sequel, it is so easy to overreach. I mean, just look at what Bethesda does all the time. But to be able to expand, like sensibly, without sacrificing anything along the way, is a really difficult balancing act. I mean, everything I said about the previous one, Arkham Asylum, holds up here for Arkham City. It's got gorgeous presentation, innovative controls, the combat's really fluid and makes you feel awesome. The gameplay is amazing. It's top-notch voice acting, and the story, again, makes you feel like Batman. It's so good. I replayed it a few years ago, and it still holds up better than most games coming out today. Do yourself a flavor, and go back and replay it if you've got it sitting in somewhere in your shelves or a drawer full of games. Let's have a look at movies. Notable movies that come out in 2011. There's Thor and Captain America, the First Avenger. Those two come out. I mean, those are kind of like, everyone knows who they are now, but at the time, it was very exciting to see these movies of B-tier superheroes, because at the time, your average person had never heard of Thor, the superhero, or Captain America. I mean, because Captain America was a propaganda character from World War II, right? And there was a Captain America movie that came out in 1990, which got a lot of shit, but I was a kid, and I kind of liked it because I was 8, and I was just like, cool, he's riding a motorcycle, and he's got a shield. Sure. Because Captain America, this time around, had a hard job, right? And that was make Captain America likable to the world, because, like I said, he's a propaganda character. And when you got this character on a globe that's really just looks like this, like, America's the best nation on the planet, like, he's going to be very unlikable. But I think they did a good job in Captain America, because he's likable because of his integrity and his character, not because of the flag he represents. And I saw that Anthony Mackie got a bit of trouble this week because on a press tour in Europe for Captain America Brave New World, he insinuated something like that the America part of Captain America, what he's trying to say is it shouldn't shut people out. But the media got it and were like, he denounced America. Fuck off, media. Stop it. Stop doing those things. Thor was also hard because they had to make us find a literal god character relatable, which is hard because he's an arrogant prick in the movie. But I think they did an okay job as well. I mean, it could have been ridiculous. It really could have been a shit show. But you had Kenneth Branagh directing and Anthony Hopkins in a supporting role, and I think they kept it from floating away. Like, I think those two were creatively more of an anchor than we will ever realize. Thor was also the first appearance of Hawkeye, the famous archer who did not fire a single arrow in this movie. Go back and watch it. He doesn't fire a single arrow. Crazy Stupid Love comes out, which is, I like it. It's one of my wife and I's favorite movies. It's a sweet movie of its time, but it would get torn apart if it was released today. because there's a subplot of a young boy who's in love with his babysitter, and he keeps telling her that he's going to be with her and that he loves her, and she begs him to stop this behavior about 100 times during the movie, but he doesn't, and we applaud his resilience. Whilst by today's lenses, we're going, look at him continually just not taking the no. It would be cancelled in 2 seconds these days. Horrible Bosses comes out in 2011, which is worth it just to see Jennifer Aniston clearly having so much fun playing a manipulative bitch boss who happens to be a sex addict. She really enjoyed this movie. Cowboys and Aliens comes out in 2011, and it looks and sounds great on paper. I mean, it's got Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford, Jon Favreau is directing. He directed Iron Man and The Mandalorian, and it flops. It's boring. It's terrible. I don't know what went wrong. There's some other stinkers this year, like the Green Lantern and the Green Hornet. I was really excited about the Green Hornet because that's the show that made Bruce Lee famous. And when I saw they were going to do a movie reboot with Christoph Waltz as the villain, Christoph Waltz plays Colonel Hans Landa in Inglourious Bastards. I was like, this guy's amazing, and he's going to be the villain. This is going to be amazing. It was so forgettable. It's really not good. Sucker Punch comes out in 2011. And Sucker Punch is what Zack Snyder did to your wallet when you went to go watch this movie. If you haven't seen it, just check out the trailer and tell me it wasn't written by horny 13-year-old boys. All right? It's about young, attractive girls in scantily clad outfits, like fighting their way through wars with samurai swords and big guns. If you have a 13-year-old boy, don't let him watch it unless it's his birthday or something, unless you want him to have an amazing time afterwards. It's for horny 13-year-old boys. X-Men First Class comes out in 2011. I know people say out of the X-Men movies, and a lot of the X-Men movies are awful, and a lot of people say X-Men First Class is one of the better ones. I wouldn't know. I can't tell you, and I never will, because I made a vow. See, the thing is, X-Men First Class, when it got released or announced, I was so excited because X-Men First Class to me sounded like they were going to do a movie about the original X-Men from the comics. You know, the original team of Beast, Iceman, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Angel. I was so excited about this. And then I found out it wasn't about them. And I was so annoyed. This is when I didn't have enough in my life, and I could be annoyed by movies this much. I made a vow to my flatmate Gareth at that point. I said to him, I'm not watching this. I vow to never watch this movie. That's how annoyed I am that they would tease us by calling it First Class and not actually have it be about the first class of X-Men. Yes, I was that petty, but you know what? A vow is a vow. So if you ever hear me vow something, just know that I will hold on to that vow for 14 years and counting. All right? Let's look at the top 5 movies of 2011. At number 5 is Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Sure, why not? They're making money, these movies, so just keep pumping them out. At number 4, The Hangover Part 2. At number 3, Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1. You know how I feel about these Part 1s. 2, Transformers Dark of the Moon. And number 1, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I mean, it really is kind of like a soulless top 5. I mean, which shows you at least that people were going to the cinema in 2011. Like, none of these movies are getting repeat watching these days, apart from Potterheads doing movie marathons. Like, no one's going, hey, let's watch The Hangover Part 2. Let's put that on. Let's get some friends over and watch Transformers Dark of the Moon. None of that shit is happening. All right? But they was hugely popular in this year, which just shows you that people are going to the cinema. But, you know, for these movies to get to the top shows that's the result of masses of people going for low-hanging fruit, you know, for these to rise to the top. And that was a good thing, right? Even though they're shitty movies, it was a good thing. The cinema industry was healthy. People are going to watch this. And when you get, you know, a large amount of people, they are going to go for the box, for the averages, you know? I mean, I will give you my picks of the year for 2011. Things like Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, comes out in 2011. I mean, the franchise is getting a little homogenous at this point, but they are solid action movies that take themselves seriously, these Mission Impossible movies, and they're better for it. They're always enjoyable. Right? Since Mission Impossible 3, they really found like, oh, okay, this is where we're going to take the franchise. And they're all good movies. I stand by them. I stand by them like I made them. I stand by watching them. Super 8 comes out in 2011. It's a really charming movie, and it's very Stranger Things before Stranger Things. I mean, I don't want to do spoilers, but if you are looking for someone to watch Super 8. The Muppets comes out in 2011, and this is a joy of a film. This is the Muppets reboot movie with Jason Segel and Amy Adams. And Jason Segel wrote this, and was one of the writers, or did he write it? I don't know. But he's one of the writers, and reportedly, they get together for the first reading of the script, and all the Muppets come in, not just the people, but they bring the Muppet puppets, right? And apparently when Kermit showed up and started reading, Jason Segel started crying because he was like, this is exactly what I wanted. And that just shows you how much that movie meant to him and how much the Muppets meant to him. It is a beautiful movie. Like, Bret McKenzie won an Oscar for Best Song for this. Shout out to Bret McKenzie. He's one half of Flight of the Conchords, Kiwi. And it's just a beautiful homage wrapped in a reboot. Like, there's plenty of genuine laugh out loud moments too in the Muppets. Like, if you haven't seen it, just it's a treat. A treat. I might watch it with my daughter very soon. Moneyball comes out in 2011. Remember when they used to just make good dramas? Just good, engaging dramas? I miss those. Watch this, and Brad Pitt does a great job, and especially watch Jonah Hill breaking into like serious roles. Like, he's loving playing a serious character for once. Like, he doesn't mention his dick once, and you can tell he loves it. 50-50 comes out this year, which is a little bit of a forgotten movie, but it's really good. It stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Remember Joseph Gordon-Levitt? I miss him. Watch this movie. But for me, no doubt, the movie of the year has to go to Bridesmaids. This is the counter argument for anyone who's ever said that women aren't funny. This is a powerhouse comedy. The comedy in this movie is earned. All right? You know, some comedies get by with like the main actor the movie gets by with like main actor being a funny guy, and he's going to be a funny guy here, and he's going to be a funny guy there, and he's going to be funny over here as he moves through the scenes in the script. Not here. Like, the characters in this movie are played so sincerely and truthfully, and that is really the crux of why this movie is so funny, because it deals with people at really low points. When they're they have to confront their vulnerability, and they're at rock bottom, and if it doesn't work if you don't believe it. So you don't just need good comedic actors, you need good actors for this as well. And the cast are all smashing it. Kristen Wiig, Rose Byrne, Melissa McCarthy, Maya Rudolph, all play their characters so truthfully, which only strengthens the comedy. Like, every time I'm scanning the channels and I see this movie come on, I call Annie and we watch it. It is one of my favorite comedies ever. It's so funny. Times Person of the Year, as we move on to this beloved segment of the podcast. Times Person of the Year is The Protester, which is recognizing everyone who protested that year in the Arab Spring, the Greece protests, Spain, India, Mexico, and more. Like, a lot of people were unhappy this year, and Time magazine said, we hear all of you. Yeah, we're going to give this to Trump in a few years. Ugh. Let's not get political. Also, personally, this year, 2011, I found it really hard. It was really hard. I'd gone from, I'd packed up, and I've never lived in another country since I was 4 years old. I was brought up in New Zealand, and I'd never lived in another country. I'd gone and spent like a month in Melbourne here or a month in Nicaragua, but I'd never I'm going to start a new life somewhere. And I found it really, really hard. I felt like I was gone from doing well in New Zealand. Hey, I was doing well. I've been asked to do this TV show, which I couldn't do. So that for me was like, really making me feel like I was missing everything. And I was really questioning, like, was moving the right thing to do? Because I just had to turn down that opportunity. I was really missing the Scared Scriptless show that I used to do all the time that would be the anchor for me. And I was missing my friends. I was missing family. It was just really, really hard. I was really lonely that year. I remember that. I didn't have my friends. I had a big group of friends in New Zealand, and I came over here and just had to start again. socially as well. That year in Edinburgh, I went up and did Card Ninja and a stand-up show. And I remember at one of the previews for Card Ninja, it was maybe one of the worst shows I've ever done. Just, I got so many things wrong in this Card Ninja show. Like, Card Ninja is one where I throw cards around as weapons, but also in this version of the show, at that time there was a prediction bit where I'd get 3 people up and I'd predict, they'd have some cards, and I'd mentally, do some mentalism stuff and predict their cards, and I got all 3 cards wrong. It was horrendous. And the crowd was just sitting there going like, this is pretty bad. And then at the end, I throw a card into a watermelon, and I could not get a card in this fucking watermelon. I couldn't do it. And I ran over time, and I eventually just had to get a card, and I folded it, and I just put it in my fist, and I slammed my fist into the watermelon, and I just kind of just said, thanks very much, and I went backstage and just put my head in my hands and just sat there for about like an hour. Annie had come up for the start of the festival to help me out, so she was there, and she came backstage. She said, if it makes you feel any better, one guy just told me that's the funniest show he's ever seen in his life. I went, what? And he said, watching you trying to get a card in a watermelon and failing was the funniest shit he's ever seen. So that was great. Then Annie left, and I did the festival on my own, and I was really lonely that festival. I think it really drained on me. I remember I met up with Gary, a friend of mine that I'd made that year, at a pub one day during the festival, and he said to me, like, as soon as I turned up, he was like, are you all right? And I think I suddenly realized that I hadn't talked to another person, another human that wasn't an audience, in about 4 days. I'd just been like completely alone for 4 days at least. And I don't think I'd ever had that before. And it was a tough year. It was a very tough year. And I wasn't making much money that year. I mean, it's never really easy to combine desperation and a job that's supposed to be your dream, because you're so completely like, well, this is what we came here to do, but also, why am I sucking so much at it? Why is this so tough? I joined a site called Star Now that would have like acting jobs or like, any sort of entertainment jobs, and you could apply for. And they had one. And like, I remember it was really, really loud. Do you want to hear a story of like one of my rock bottom moments? I was really down, and they had, I saw this ad on the Star Now website that was for like, okay, we're going to be doing a video game launch in London. We're looking for actors who can be doing meet and greets as video game characters specifically. It's going to be like a Street Fighter game star. So anyone that has these sort of skills, and also any sort of martial arts background, is also a plus. And I was like, what? I love video games. I've done meet and greets all the time in New Zealand with the court jesters, being an improviser, and being hired for exactly these sorts of things. And I did karate for so long. I have a black belt in karate. So yes. So I messaged them, they messaged back, and they're like, oh, this sounds great. And we're messaging back and forth, and I'm like, well, I've got experience doing this, that. And they're just doing the final things of like, oh, so are you available on this date? You'd have to be available from this time to this time. And I'm like, oh yeah, all good. And then they go, this might sound a bit weird, but could you send us a photo of you with your shirt off? Because our costuming person just needs to have a look at you and just see if the costume's going to fit. All right. And I remember thinking, okay, that seems a bit weird. But I feel like I'm so close to getting this job. Yeah, sure. It's, and hey, men go topless sometimes. Yeah. We're at the pool sometimes. It's not like I'm showing my tits, right? Ugh. Well, anyway, I remember standing in my room in front of the mirror and pulled out my camera phone and took a photo, just like, ugh, didn't like it. I felt dirty doing it. I felt really like, oh, what is it? But I was like, okay, snap, done. And I sent it off, and I didn't hear back from them ever again. Yeah, that was a low point. That was a low point. But you know what? Things were going to get better the next year. You know what? And I'm glad. Hey, no one ever said moving over and starting again would be easy. And it really wasn't. But I'm glad we did it. I don't regret the decision at all, because the things that came out afterwards from that grind, from that initial first year of eating shit, I wouldn't trade them for anything. So yeah, there are silver linings, but also I did take my shirt off and send a photo of myself, and I felt like a dirty whore. Showbiz. Do you know what was worse? The worst thing is, after this happened, I remember that when I left New Zealand, Dad knew that I was going over there to be a comedian, and he said to me, before I was leaving, he said to me one thing. He said, "Hey, don't do anything over there that you're ever going to regret, okay? I know there's going to be times where you're going to get offers." And I did that, and I didn't hear back from it. And then I remember that conversation with Dad, and I went, "No, he warned me exactly about this." Anyway, I'm going to end it there. This has been a fun one. Has it? Anyway, it's been fun to reminisce. Thanks so much for listening, guys. I will catch you next time. Bye.